Today, we are engaging in a critical evaluation of our political systems. When we talk about governance, we often deal in ideals, but we need to ground those ideals in reality. Our subject today is assessing democracy's expectations. It is a complex topic because there is often a gap between what we hope for and reality. We have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. What do we expect versus what we truly receive from democratic governance? Over the next hour, we are going to explore the mechanisms, the shortcomings, and the ultimate value of this system to understand if it truly delivers on its promises. To understand the outcomes of democracy, we must first understand its structural foundation. We can visualize this as the three pillars of democratic outcomes. These aren't just buzzwords, they are functional requirements. The first pillar is an accountable government. This means the leadership is answerable and responsible to its population. They cannot act in a vacuum. The second pillar is responsive leadership. This describes a government that actively reacts and adapts to the evolving needs of the citizens. And the third pillar is legitimate authority. This is critical. It means the government operates lawfully under public trust and constitutional frameworks. It uses transparent mechanisms to maintain that trust. Let's drill down into that first pillar, accountability. Specifically, the right to choose and dismiss. How do citizens actually wield power? In a functioning democracy, citizens exercise power through regular, free, and fair elections. You should view these elections not just as a civic ritual, but as performance reviews for leadership. If the review is bad, the contract is terminated. Democratic systems grant the fundamental authority to remove failing governments and demand better governance. This ability to dismiss leadership without violence is the cornerstone of political accountability. Moving to the second pillar, we encounter responsiveness, listening to the people. This is often harder to measure than a simple election result. For a government to be truly responsive, it must genuinely care about public opinion. It has to craft policies that reflect majority needs, but, and this is a crucial distinction, it must do so whilst protecting minorities. It is not a winner-takes-all game. Democratic responsiveness requires careful negotiation and balancing of distinct demands from diverse societal groups. It is a constant juggling act of interests. Why do people accept the authority of the state? This brings us to legitimacy, a people's own government. In a dictatorship, authority is often imposed. In a democracy, legitimacy flows directly from the consent of the governed, not imposed authority. When we look at the global stage, we see that global support exists because people fundamentally wish to be ruled by representatives they themselves have chosen. Even if the government makes mistakes, the fact that it is our government makes its authority valid. Why do people accept the authority of the state? This brings us to legitimacy, a people's own government. In a dictatorship, authority is often imposed. In a democracy, legitimacy flows directly from the consent of the governed, not imposed authority. When we look at the global stage, we see that global support exists because people fundamentally wish to be ruled by representatives they themselves have chosen, even if the government makes mistakes. The fact that it is our government makes its authority valid. That slower process brings a specific benefit: decision-making, process, and transparency. Because the process is open, transparency allows citizens to examine exactly how governmental decisions were reached and justified. Nothing is hidden in a black box. Furthermore, democracy follows established procedures through norms, laws, and constitutions that create lasting trust. We sacrifice speed to gain trust and verification. We often equate freedom with wealth, but we need to look at the data regarding economic growth and development. Here is the hard truth. Democracy does not guarantee economic prosperity. In fact, history shows that some dictatorships have achieved higher historical growth rates. However, democracy offers a safety net. Democratic systems successfully prevent worst-case economic scenarios, including famine and total societal collapse. We might not always grow the fastest, but we are much less likely to starve. This brings us to a significant critique of modern democracies: the reduction of inequality and poverty. There is a disconnect here. Political equality does not automatically translate into economic equality in democratic societies. We have equal rights on paper, but in the economy, the gap widens. The reality is that the poor possess votes, whilst the wealthy often maintain disproportionate influence over policy outcomes. This remains one of the most pressing unresolved tensions in democratic governance. While economic equality remains elusive, we must not undervalue political equality. The principle of one person, one vote, one value is revolutionary. The political arena functions as a legally level playing field, representing democracy's fundamental achievement. Regardless of wealth, your vote counts the same. This system amplifies voices of the marginalized and disadvantaged within society, giving them a lever of power they would be denied in any other system. No country is a monolith. We all deal with accommodation of social diversity. Democracy enables peaceful coexistence of differences. We have to accept that no society is fully homogeneous. Instead of suppressing these differences, democracy develops procedures for conducting competition. This is vital because it prevents social conflict from becoming violent. We fight with words and ballots, not weapons. A common misconception is that democracy is simply mob rule. But true democracy involves a nuanced majority versus minority dynamic. Democracy transcends simple majority rule. The majority must actively work and negotiate with minority groups. If they don't, the system fractures. Furthermore, we must remember that the majority represents a fluid political coalition, not a fixed religious or racial demographic. You might be in the majority today on one issue, and the minority tomorrow on another. Beyond the mechanics of voting and laws, there's a moral argument. We must look at the dignity and freedom of the individual. In this regard, democracy proves superior in promoting individual dignity by recognizing every person's inherent value. It is not just about the collective, it is about you. Freedom of expression and movement are codified as fundamental, legally protected rights. You are a citizen with rights, not a subject with permissions. Let's apply this concept of dignity to gender equality and democracy. We acknowledge the historical exclusion of women from political participation. It took a long time to get here. However, today, equality claims gain legitimate constitutional footing. Democracy provides legal basis for fighting discrimination. It gives the movement for gender equality the legal tools necessary to dismantle patriarchal structures. In many societies, deep-rooted social hierarchies exist. We see this in the context of caste and social inequalities. In a democracy, discrimination faces legal and moral opposition. It is no longer state-sanctioned. Democracy provides platforms for disadvantaged groups to demand equal status and opportunity. We must be honest, though. These challenges persist in practice, but the democratic framework provides the only viable path to challenge them. One of the most unique psychological aspects of living in a democracy is that the exam of democracy never ends. It involves continuous testing and evolution. As soon as one problem is solved, people always expect more. But here is a twist. Complaining signals awareness of rights. When you hear people complaining about their government, that is actually a sign of a healthy, aware citizenry knowing they deserve better. Let's look at the mechanics again with a case study: procedural democracy. Why do we endure the long process of bill drafting, committee reviews, and floor debates? Because laws passed after extensive debate prove superior to instant decrees because stakeholders are heard. By including everyone in the argument, democratic procedures reduce future conflict through inclusive deliberation and transparent processes. If you wanted to grade your own country, how would you do it? We need a tool for evaluating democracy, the checklist. Ask yourself these questions. Are elections regular? Is the press free? And does the judiciary maintain independence from political pressure? Furthermore, do citizens possess genuine access to governmental information and transparent decision-making processes? These are the metrics of success, alongside clarity and consistency. Perhaps the greatest strength of democracy is not that it is perfect, but that it is democracy as a self-correcting system. Mistakes occur in all governments. No system is immune to error. But in a dictatorship, errors are covered up. In a democracy, democratic errors cannot remain hidden. Because of free speech and open press, public discussion enables correction. We can fix what is broken. So, why we choose democracy? We choose it because democracy promotes human dignity, allows peaceful conflict resolution, and corrects its own mistakes. It is messy, it is slow, and it is imperfect, but it honors the individual. However, remember this final thought. Success requires active citizens who engage meaningfully, not passive subjects who merely accept authority. The quality of the democracy we receive depends entirely on the quality of the citizens we are. Thank you for watching this deep assessment of our political expectations.